Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We've been talking about it since November, I think, or October even, about this time of year, and it's officially out. We officially have our March Madness bracket that came out yesterday. And today we'll kind of go over the four regions and give a general breakdown of just our general thoughts in each region. And then Tuesday, Wednesday will be a little bit more in depth on the first four games, as well as best bets for the first round, probably on Wednesday for Thursday and Friday's game. So we'll just get right into it as I'll bring it
I've
up.
already said, I mean, this is the best time of year. You said that you've been waiting since November. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as last year's national championship ended, I've been looking forward to this year's. That is how excited I am for this. Here we go. March Madness is here. Brackets finally out. We're gonna start with the East region, of course. That's the first region that was introduced to us. Obviously, number one seed UConn. No surprise there. I will say the surprise of the weekend was just all the bid Steelers. First off, that was just incredible to see just how not I wouldn't say electric, but just how ever changing the bubble was this year. We had so many bid Steelers, and because of that, you have a three bid Big East year where they only have three teams where they should have more. But that's a conversation for another time. But first, we're gonna dive into UConn Stetson. Uh, we feel like we should not be overestimating this game. But you never can take any game for granted anymore. If Purdue can lose to FDU after the first round, but I want to take a look at this FAU and Northwestern matchup here, and I think that's going to be a really intriguing matchup in the first round. You kind of have two different ways of how these two teams play. You have an FAU team that really likes to shoot the ball well. They're a precision shooting team, but when they have faced a team that really slows them down, especially behind the arc, it's going to be a lot of trouble. And Northwestern, they really like to slow this team. They really like to slow teams down. They get in the lane, force turnovers. We know how this team beat Purdue on that exact way. They got in the lane, they forced bad shooting from their guards, Brith and Lawyer, and then you obviously only do so much with Edie, but then obviously forcing turnovers and getting in the lanes, getting steals as well. So that's going to be a very exciting matchup between two pretty much different, contrasting, I'd say. Teams are look at this FAU and Northwestern matchup here in the 8-9 region here in the East region. What are your initial thoughts when you see that matchup? Two kind of different teams. Obviously FAU moving from the I believe they were in the I forgot what conference they were in. I think they were in the CUSA before they moved to the American, and then obviously Northwestern. Another great year in the Big Ten with Boo Buie and that team. What do you look at in this first matchup between FAU and Northwestern?
Yeah, I mean, coming off the run that FAU had last year, it's been a bit of a kind of an up and down season for them this year, bringing back, I think, most of the same players from that team last year. They tend to struggle, I feel like, FAU against teams with better kind of perimeter defense. And Northwestern's kind of a team is going to want to kind of slow the game down and kind of, win a lower scoring game. I saw it firsthand when they played ASU early in the non-conference play. It's going to be interesting to see, like you said, the contrasting styles of the two teams. Obviously, FAU has I think Golden is his name, the big man. He'll look to control the paint down low. And then Northwestern, again, will want to slow the game down. And, like you said, Boo Buie will want to just they're going to need him to have a huge game, I think, to take this game. So, definitely, I feel like all the 8-9 games are pretty interesting for different reasons, and obviously this will be one of them as well.
Yeah, you mentioned how Northwestern with Boo Buie, they kind of need to rely on him a lot more. That's the one caveat with Northwestern. They don't really, that many, too many scores to rely on outside of Boo Buie. So, if he's not shooting the ball well, it could be a long night for Northwestern, and then kind of the opposite for FAU. Like you said, if Northwestern can, slow that game down, guard the three well. FAU is not making their shots. It's going to be a long night for the Owls, trying to whether get back in that game or, at least compete in that game. Then moving down to the 5-12 matchup, we have San Diego State and UAB. We have Auburn and Yale. I want to circle on this BYU and Duquesne matchup here. This matchup, well, first off, going to the other one, I do like Auburn. I do think Yale is going to give them a little bit of trouble, but I do like Auburn in that matchup. And then SDSU, I think they absolutely beat the brakes off of UAB. I think UAB is not a good defensive team, and San Diego State, they have Jaden Ledee, and then they're one of the better defensive teams. This team just went to the national championship last year. They have a great draw in the first round, so I think they easily take care of UAB. But going back to this BYU and Duquesne matchup here, you have this. This is a very interesting matchup because obviously, first off, BYU wasn't even supposed to be in this matchup. Okay, this is supposed to be Gonzaga's matchup, but obviously, just because of scheduling conflicts and with obviously BYU having to play on Thursdays and Saturdays because of religious reasons, they can't play Sundays. So this was supposed to be Gonzaga, so this should be Gonzaga versus Duquesne, but we're having Duquesne here. BYU, obviously, we talk about how they are one of the best point shooting teams in the country. You know, they are electric from the three. They have a pretty substantial defense, but the thing about Duquesne that kind of makes me intrigued is that, you know, they have these two scores, you know, Holmes, and then they have I know they have Day Grant. I know they have this other guy who can shoot the ball pretty well. And the way Duquesne played, especially throughout that A10 tournament, you know, they really just are one of the better defenses right now in terms of just guarding the three and in terms of guarding the perimeter and inside the arc as well. So I feel like, you know, that kind of goes back to the Northwestern kind of matchup, you know, kind of two different contrasting teams. You know, BYU, a very, you know, not go, but, you know, they love to shoot the ball from behind the arc. And, you know, they do run a very methodical offense, but they always look to find the three. So, you know, I feel like that kind of may advantage Duquesne because of the fact that, you know, they don't have to be going up and down the court, you know, even though BYU does slow it down. You know, the fact that Duquesne does have some good perimeter three defense could be, you know, a little bit of trouble for BYU, but, you know, I feel at the same time, you know, BYU obviously a better 3-point shooting team. Ari, if you've had any, you know, look at this BYU Duquesne matchup here in the 6-11 matchup here in the East region, what are your initial thoughts when you see these two teams?
Yeah, I feel like it's another contrasting styles where Duquesne wants to kind of play slower and BYU just wants to like chuck up a bunch of threes. So I think that would be the biggest thing to kind of watch to see if Duquesne, you know, can pull off the upset or just keep it close. It's going to be BYU shooting from three, which is what they rely on heavily, you know, all season. Duquesne, this is the game, right? Duquesne VCU where they had the confetti fall early in the conference championship game, I think. So that was funny. But yeah, Duquesne, you know, I feel like we usually have at least one or two 11s over 6s most years in March Madness. And yeah, I feel like this one is going to be in, you know, maybe an under game potentially. I haven't seen the line yet, but maybe an under in this one. But yeah, I don't have too many thoughts yet, but just in general, BYU is going to want to play faster. I think Duquesne's going to want to play slower, so we'll see who kind of control the pace in this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. You know, we're also going to be, you know, as we get through this initial bracket, you know, we're going to be talking about some early leans in terms of, you know, totals and, you know, money lines and spreads. So already mentioning that under for that BYU Duquesne matchup is also a good look. I saw a little tidbit, potentially maybe a first half under as well. You know, I saw games usually starting before 10 a.m. at Pacific time. First half unders, I think, are 60% ROI right now. So, you know, maybe early. And I know that game's like one of the first games on that Thursday slate. So maybe that under is a good play for you there. But you know, like you said, you know, two contrasting styles. You mentioned BYU, you know, very 3-point reliant and, you know, behind the arc. And then Duquesne likes to slow teams down. You know, they're a methodical team. So, you know, definitely going to be interesting to see how these two teams come up. You know, we'll obviously have our official picks and, you know, leans and sides and totals, all of that as we get, you know, later down throughout the week and, you know, finalize our brackets and whatnot. Obviously, going down here, Illinois Morehead State, you know, I think Illinois' offense right now is just on another planet with Terrence Shannon Jr. right now. I think they're just unstoppable. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything for this one a lot. I'm gonna be as unbiased as possible here, obviously, just to be fair for you and everyone else here. When we look at this matchup between Wazoo and Drake here, right? We see two contrasting styles. We have Drake, who's a very offensive team, you know, but they obviously do have a pretty solid defense. They do rely a little bit more on their offense, you know, with Tucker DeVries and, you know, how that offense kind of gets focused around him. You know, I've seen Drake play a lot of basketball this year. I called Tucker DeVries the Larry Bird of the Missouri Valley Conference right now. And, you know, obviously you can say that's kind of disrespectful to Indiana State because Larry Bird went there, and obviously they're in the same conference. But I mean, the way Tucker DeVries kind of leads this offense, it's very Larry Bird-esque. He controls the paint. He finds his shot, and if he doesn't find it, he's gonna find it eventually. Defensively, he'll lead the break. Really make sure everyone. He's kind of the main guy for this Drake team, and I think that kind of plays advantage for Wazoo here because they like to play a lot of zone, and they really have been playing a lot of great zone. Throughout the year. Wazoo, obviously, they rely a lot more heavily on their defense. Their offense has not been the greatest as of recently. Obviously, as someone who watches a lot of Wazoo basketball. But I feel like this is a great matchup. Different styles of, again, I'm not going to give a side or anything because I obviously have a lot of personal side to this. So I feel like it's unfair if I give any kind of advice. But just from an unbiased side, you have two teams that play different kinds of styles. Ari, I know you've probably taken a list matchup here, very, intriguing matchup in the first round. I feel as if whoever wins this matchup is going to give whoever comes out of that Iowa State, South Dakota State, which I have Iowa State winning, by the way. I feel like they're going to give Iowa State a lot of trouble in that second round. But Ari, who do you like so far? What do you lean in that Wazoo Drake game, the 7-10 matchup in the East region?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, another game of contrasting styles for the most part. Of Drake, higher scoring, wanting to play faster, and Washington State, again wanting to play slower in a lower scoring game. My initial lean is the Cougars. I think if they can limit, DeVries, then it's good because he opens up everything obviously offensively for Drake. So if he's getting limited, I mean, it's going to be tough to like completely shut him down. But if you can at least, limit him, then it's going to be, I think, tough for Drake to kind of find a rhythm offensively. So again, another kind of, I feel like it's another game where if you lean Washington State, you kind of lean the under on the spread. And if you lean Drake, you kind of lean the over just based on how each team plays. But yeah, another kind of short spread, close spread. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to the end.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, I know this line, I think Wazoo opened as a slight favorite, and then overnight, Drake kind of overtook them as a favorite. So I think this line's going to be going back and forth all week. But, we're going to take a closer look probably, as Ari said, tomorrow or Wednesday, as we get some of our final bets, for the opening round, first four, all that fun stuff. But now we're going to go down to the West region now here. This is the West region. First, obviously, I don't even care who comes out of Howard and Wagner. I think they're just playing for the spotlight. This UNC team just lost to NC State. They're going to be coming with vengeance. So obviously I'm taking NC State. This matchup here, the 8-9 matchup, UNC. I don't know why I said NC State. This matchup here, Mississippi State and Michigan State. This is the matchup that I honestly don't know. All I know is that this game is going to be very low scoring.
All you know is that it's going to be MSU winning.
Yeah, so we have an MSU winning. Do I know which one? No. But all I know is that this game is going to be very low scoring. Obviously, we look at Michigan State, one of the best defenses in the country, top 10 defense. Mississippi State, they have a top 25 defense in the country. I feel like, it comes down to who can make their shots in the right time. And I feel like this also comes down to coaching as well, because you have Izzo, who has been there so many times. And, no discredit to Mississippi State and their staff, but, I feel like Michigan State is a slight favorite. Right now, I think so, only just because of the fact that their defense is slightly better. And obviously the net and all of these rankings love them. But, at the same time, Michigan State has had some really bad losses throughout the Big Ten and just non-conference play as well. So Ari, when you look at this matchup here between, two really good defensive teams, obviously I mentioned the under being a good look, especially the first half under as well, but maybe the full game. But when you look at this game, this is the first game of the whole first round on Thursday. What do you like so far between this game? If you have a side, maybe a total, or if you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at for that under, what do you like between Michigan State and Mississippi State so far?
No, yeah, I'm with you on the under, especially the first half under of just, I feel like most years, I mean, I don't know specifically, but I feel like a lot of times the first game of the entire, round of 64 tournament, or the first game of the entire round of 64 just kind of starts off slow. And these are two teams that are kind of built to, be more kind of gritty and kind of go more low scoring. And obviously, Michigan State, you can argue whether they should, be here or whatnot, but I think, they're going to try to control the pace more on their end. And that's going to be kind of, lower possessions, lower scoring game. Obviously, you have Izzo, who's, like you said, has been here before. So you have that kind of edge with Michigan State. Mississippi State's had some big wins this year themselves, and they're kind of coming with some momentum as well. So, yeah, I feel like over more than the side is the under here as well, as my kind of initial lean with this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I all I see is just screaming the under for that first game between Mississippi State and Michigan State. And then now moving on to the 5-12, 4-13 matchups here. First, I want to dive into St. Mary's Grand Canyon just for a little bit here. I feel like this is a very popular 5-12 upset. Obviously, a lot of people are very high on Grand Canyon, but I don't know why, but this is really giving me that San Diego Charleston game from last year. A lot of people are high on Charleston to upset, but the Grand Canyon got the worst draw that they could have got. They got a team that St. Mary's who can slow them down, who likes to really just play at a slow tempo. Obviously defensive first, and I feel like it's just so funny seeing that matchup first, and then in the bottom matchup you have the two most offensive teams. I mean, that game's gonna soar over. You're gonna have one game that's gonna soar under, then the next game's gonna soar over. I mean, my goodness, Alabama Charleston. I mean, right now my lean is Charleston to cover whatever the spread is because I know it's gonna be a big spread, but I feel like Charleston is gonna compete in this game because of the fact that their offense is gonna be able to compete. Their offense puts up 80 a game. Alabama's defense allows 80 a game. Like I said, you do the math here. Do the math. But Ari, I know you. I know we've seen these couple matchups here. I've seen a lot of people talking about Grand Canyon as a potential 12-5 upset. Obviously, I've also seen some people talking about Charleston potentially being an upset as well. Over an Alabama team that does have a little bit of Swiss cheese defense. Is there any value here on these two? What are you liking so far? Maybe in this upset land between St. Mary's Gonzaga and then St. Mary's Grand Canyon and then Alabama and Charleston in Spokane.
No, yeah, I do believe both games have the potential to kind of be close towards the end. Straight up, I'm still leaning towards St. Mary's and Alabama here to, prevail in the end. But, maybe against the spread, both Grand Canyon and Charleston potentially. Or like you said, maybe the under in Grand Canyon and the over in Charleston game. I think of the two, I'm more confident in the over in the Alabama game just because, like you said, these are two of the faster-paced teams and not in the entire country really, all season. So that's kind of my bigger lean of the two. But, I think both games can be close and come down to the end. But I think, just straight up bracket-wise, I'm still leaning towards St. Mary's and Alabama prevailing in the end here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think the higher seeds, or the lower seeds, wherever you like to call them, I feel like they will prevail in the end. But you mentioned in terms of sides and totals, the under in Grand Canyon to cover, and then the over in Charleston to cover as well. I think those are some good plays as well for you. Then moving down into the bottom half of this region here, Clemson, New Mexico. I think this is one of the most popular 11/6s that I've seen right now. In terms of how well New Mexico has just played. They won, I think, 4 games in 4 days, going to win, the Mountain West tournament, and then obviously revealing later that they were honestly out on the outside. So if they didn't win that game, they would not have made it to the NCAA tournament. So, them being seen as a bid stealer, even though I don't think they were technically a bid stealer. I saw this team as one of the maybe last 4 buys or last 4 teams in just because of how well they played themselves, but they didn't need it anyway because they won the Mountain West Conference. But then they got a Clemson team. I feel like this Clemson team obviously just came off a really tough loss to BC in the opening round, in their opening matchup in the ACC tournament. Didn't really get anything going offensively. Ari, if I know you've probably seen a lot of people picking New Mexico. Do you like New Mexico as well here, or are you sticking with Clemson, or any early line or early leans as we get into this Clemson New Mexico game?
No, yeah, I think I might be one to join the party here at New Mexico as an upset here. Like you said, it was a rough end to the regular season for Clemson. I think they lost 3 of their last 4, including getting blown out in that opening round of the ACC tournament. Obviously New Mexico I feel like Mountain West doesn't get as much respect as it maybe could get at times. And I think that they can kind of ride their momentum into this game where it comes to kind of the two teams kind of coming into this game in opposite directions here. And I think I could see New Mexico, I don't have anything locked in yet, but I'm kind of leaning towards New Mexico here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I feel like the one kind of advantage as well, New Mexico with head coach Richard Pitino, obviously, for those who don't know, the son of head coach Rick Pitino, obviously legendary head coach. So, there's definitely that March Madness-esque feel, with him, even though he's never been in this spot by himself as a head coach. He's obviously had the tutelage of his father, to look up to his whole life. So, I feel like that also plays a big role, in terms of, just veteran head coaching leadership in this spot. But I definitely agree with you there. Moving down here, Baylor, Colgate. I think that's going to be a definitely contrasting matchup as well. Baylor, very offensive team. Colgate, very slow team. I think that could be potentially a fun one in terms of the spread. But finally, these two games, honestly, in the bottom, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I know Arizona's gonna I know Arizona's going to win. Obviously, don't worry, Ari. I know they're going to win. They're going to win this year. But Dayton and Nevada, that one I honestly do not know. I still don't know right now. I have no leans. I'm not going to lie to you. The reason I have no leans because I don't know who's going to win. The thing about this Dayton team is the last time we saw them, they lost to Duquesne in the A10 tournament, and throughout the year, they have been really good, but they're only good at home. And that's the caveat with this Dayton team is that they're a really good team if they're playing in Dayton. And now obviously it would be hilarious if they were in the first four because that would be a home game for them, but they're not in the first four, obviously. So I forget where their games are, but when I look at Dayton and Nevada, right, you have Nevada, who's a very offensive team with Jerry Lucas and Keenan Blackshear. And then you have Dayton with Deron Holmes, who is a talent, right? And ooh, man, this is tough for me. Ari, I still don't know who it is 2-11. The bracket has been out for almost 24 hours, and I still don't know who's winning the Dayton and Nevada. Do you, Ari?
I think I'm gonna go with Nevada here. I feel like you said, a combination of Dayton, not being at home in Nevada, I feel like I'm more confident in them in a neutral site setting, and I think Madison will is going to want to play at their pace more so, and I think Nevada can control that pace of going a little bit slower, kind of a more gritty type of game, and then Lucas is, he can get a shot, he can get a bucket whenever you need it. It's a close game at the end. So my lean here is Nevada. I feel like Dayton's kind of more of a shooting team, and I feel like, as someone who's rooting for Arizona, obviously, also they have to get through. They have to get through the first round, first, after last year. So they have first one game at a time. Obviously, just kind of looking to the second round. I feel like Arizona matches up better with Nevada than they do Dayton, who can get hot from three, and that's kind of been a struggle at times for Arizona is 3-point defense. So I'm kind of rooting for Nevada as well for that reason, but I do lean towards Nevada in this matchup with Dayton.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really fun matchup. You talked about how Dayton struggles away from home at some times. We even saw it in the A10 tournament. They struggled to really get their shot ups against Duquesne, and obviously Duquesne a better defensive 3-point team as we mentioned before. And then Nevada, they get their shots up. It's gonna be a long day. You mentioned Jared Lucas. We've seen him hit ridiculous shots. Keenan Blackshear, one of the more consistent scorers for the Wolfpack. So me personally, I don't have a lean right now, but I do lean Nevada a little bit, so I do like that for Zoo. And then obviously you mentioned Arizona. You know what? Last year's the past. It's a new year. It's a new year. It's a new year, guys. And obviously they're paying the beach, of course. And a week ago, they fired their head coach, and now he's coaching them in an NC tournament game. So life comes at you fast at Long Beach State, apparently. But obviously, I feel like Arizona should win this game. I think Long Beach State struggles defensively, and Arizona should probably easily handle this game. But now moving on to we're gonna go. I think this is the Midwest region. Yes, the Midwest region here. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but because of what happened last year, I have to avoid the Purdue game strictly because of what happened last year. I don't have a pick right now. My lean is Purdue. I can't believe I'm saying lean, but if Montana State comes out, I know they're a pretty good defensive team. It could be a long day for Purdue. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say here. Well, now moving on to Utah State TCU here. I honestly think this is one of the more slept on first round matches just because not a lot of people. First of all, Utah State got disrespected in their seeding. I think they're at least a 7 or a 6, but the fact that they're an 8, maybe shows that the fact that maybe they had a little bit of an easy non-conference and maybe they relied a lot more on their conference record. Obviously, they won the Mountain West regular season title. Great team. Obviously, had a tough loss to San Diego State in the semis of the Mountain West tournament. Obviously this team can shoot the ball. The one caveat I will say about Utah State is the fact that they returned absolutely 0 scores from last year. So it's going to be a whole new team. It's not like veteran team, or team that's been in the program for a while. It's a completely new setup. So I don't know how that fares well for Utah State. And then TCU, surprisingly this year, I don't know how, but they're a little bit better defensively than they are offensively. They do have Jameer Nelson Jr., the scorer transfer from Delaware, who's pretty exciting at times all year. My lean is TCU, and like I said, if TCU and Purdue somehow match up in the second round, it could be a long day for It could be a long day for Purdue. That's all I'm gonna say. Ari, do you have any outlook in this Utah State TCU matchup as we go into the Midwest here?
I feel like this is more for me like the Dayton, Nevada is for you, where I don't have like a strong initial lean. I'm kind of also slightly leaning towards TCU right now. But yeah, this is kind of the same deal for me as the Nevada Dayton game is for you, where I don't have a strong kind of initial lean. I'm going to kind of try to look. This is going to be one of the games I'm going to try to look more into the next 24 to 48 hours before, making anything official.
Yeah, that's gonna be me with Dayton and Nevada. I got it. And speaking of making more official, you scroll down here, these two, the 5-12 and the 4-13 here. I don't know who's winning. I really don't know who's winning. For Gonzaga McNeese, all I know is that whoever gets out of that little region right there is going to the Sweet 16 between Gonzaga and McNeese, because you literally could not be talking about two different teams. Gonzaga is score, score, score. Let's go through Ike. Let's go through Watson. Let's go through Hickman. Let's score. McNeese says, let's slow the team down. Let's slow you down. We're going to make you try to score, and then we're going to bully you and just and make you get you in transition defense. That is this battle, right? And I just don't know what to expect, because the one X factor I will say for McNeese is that they have Will Wade. And Will Wade has been in this spot before. Now, obviously, it's not with McNeese, but the last time he was here was back in 2021 when he coached LSU to the NCAA tournament. I know they won in their first round game, and I know they almost took out Michigan. So that was definitely a lot of fun there. So, I feel like McNeese, obviously, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're a lock, but, I can't disrespect Gonzaga, and seeing how they've really saved their season from being pretty much a bubble team throughout the beginning part of the season. They were on the fringe edge of things. They didn't really have a good non-conference start, and then they kind of saved their season within the conference of the West Coast Conference, kind of ascending to the top 2, and then obviously almost having a conference championship alongside, but obviously just lost. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Gonzaga and BYU were supposed to be switched, but obviously due to scheduling conflicts in terms of BYU and religious reasons, Gonzaga had to be in the spot. So keep in the back of your mind, this is supposed to be BYU and McNeese. But obviously this is Gonzaga and McNeese, and obviously that affects Kansas and Samford, because obviously you can't have BYU and Kansas there now. So just take that as you will. But for this matchup here, I do lean McNeese a little bit as an upset. But I would not be surprised if it's going to be either Gonzaga wins by a lot or McNeese wins by a little bit. And I think it's going to be one of those matchups again. I just feel like, if Gonzaga can really get the 3-point shooting well early, I think it's going to be a long day for McNeese. And if McNeese wants to slow this game down, and, they're honestly a low-key dunk city from what I've seen. They could be really exciting. And then Kansas and Samford, the only reason I'm avoiding this game is because we do not know the health of Kansas. We do not know the health of McCullough. We do not know the health of Dickinson. We have heard that they should be playing this game. But you got to take that with a grain of salt because we haven't heard anything official yet. So I don't really know who to take in that game. And then you have a Samford team that is go, 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 score, score, score. I don't know how Kansas fares up against that. And we saw the last time we saw Kansas without their two best players, it didn't look too pretty. So, Ari, if you have anything in Gonzaga McNeese, what do you like? And obviously for Kansas Samford, injuries are obviously the main kind of concern, but do you like anything so far in this kind of region here between Gonzaga McNeese and Kansas and Samford?
Yeah, Kansas, I'll kind of hold off as well for the same reasons. I think they're expected to play. I think they started out the conference tournament with the expectation that they would get healthy, for the NCAA tournament. But we'll have to kind of wait for confirmation. This other game, Gonzaga and McNeese, this is one of my stronger upset leans in McNeese. They finished the season with the 8th best 3-point shooting percentage, and Gonzaga's perimeter defense at times was a little up and down at times this year. So I think McNeese, they're 30-3. They're entering this game with a lot of confidence. Gonzaga, not as much confidence as they usually are, as a top seed usually they are. So not exactly the season that they usually have, but still they're here, obviously. But yeah, this is probably one of my stronger kind of 12-5 upset leans. Again, nothing. I haven't made my brackets. Nothing's official, but McNeese is one of my stronger upset leans, kind of in this range.
When I was looking at Gonzaga McNeese, over and over again, I kind of got that same idea that you were talking about. With McNeese being one of the better 3-point shooting teams and Gonzaga's perimeter defense, like I said, it's been a little Swiss cheese this year. And so I do agree with you. I do, like I said, I lean McNeese, and like you said earlier, and I said,
at the same time, what was it last year? It was like Duke Oral Roberts was that the popular upset pick, I think, if I remember correctly, and Duke crushed them. So we'll see how popular this pick is as the week progresses.
I think I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying East over Gonzaga so much, and I think it's very similar, like you said. Duke Oral Roberts, or like I said, even SDSU in Charleston, that was a popular one as well. Charleston was like 30-4 last year or something. So I definitely agree with you there. But then also you said staying away from Kansas, and just because of the health risk. But like you said, they Bill Self, head coach of Kansas, he did purposely rest Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson for the reason to kind of be here in this spot. So, but at the same time, we don't really know how healthy they are or whatnot. So, and Kansas without their two best stars is a different team. So definitely going to avoid that for now. But moving down here to the bottom half of this region, and, here we are, first bid Steelers, South Carolina and Oregon. This Oregon team is playing really, really hot right now. And, I don't really have a good read on this game as well, in terms of what I like. All I know is that Creighton has a great path to the Sweet 16. As from what I'm seeing here, Creighton has a great path to the Sweet 16. Whoever they play, I feel like they can easily, limit Oregon on terms of both sides, and especially in terms of rebounding. And then for South Carolina, I feel like their offense is going to be too much for that defense. So I think Creighton has a great path to 16. That's kind of my initial kind of first thought when I look at these two matchups here. I like anything right now in South Carolina, Oregon. I don't really have, a lean right now, but in terms of what I like, all I know is that Creighton has a great path to the Sweet 16. Ari, what do you like so far in this kind of region right here?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on Creighton here, advancing to the Sweet 16 out of these 4 teams. Again, I don't mean to keep saying the same thing, but my lean in South Carolina, Oregon is the under. I think South Carolina is going to want to kind of slow the game down. And Oregon obviously had their run the Pac-12 tournament, the final Pac-12 tournament ever. I think they're going to kind of not that they're going to lose this game necessarily. I don't have an extreme lean here on the side here, but I think they're going to kind of cool down. I feel like South Carolina's going to cool them down a little bit from their scoring, and I think it's going to be a kind of a more lower scoring game between South Carolina and Oregon.
Yeah, I do like that lean as well for you between for that under in South Carolina, Oregon. We're obviously, I'm definitely going to delve into that one in the next probably 24 to 48 hours as well to kind of get a better grasp on that game. And finally, wrapping up the Midwest region. Personally, I usually like to avoid all first four games that include obviously the at large bids until those games have been decided. But I will say I do have a match in terms of who I like. If Virginia does win, I believe that game is tomorrow. If Virginia wins tomorrow, then I do like Texas to advance. But if CSU wins, Colorado State, I do like Colorado State to pull off the upset over Texas. And then obviously the game of the first round, St. Peter's against an SEC team as a 15 seed. Oh no. Doesn't this remind you of something, Ari? Doesn't this remind you of a certain bracket busting team that we just saw not even a couple years ago, or is it that same team potentially? Honestly, and I'm not even saying this like as just because of the fact that St. Peter's went on that run. I really could see St. Peter's giving Tennessee a lot of trouble because of the fact that their offense really relies on Dalton Connect so much, and if he's not shooting the ball well, it's gonna be a long day for Tennessee. But Ari, this little region here is kind of the more exciting part in terms of this whole region as a whole. What do you like so far in this little region here for Texas and either Virginia and Colorado State, and then Tennessee and St. Peter's?
No, yeah, I'm not a huge believer in Texas. I'm kind of with you if Colorado State is in that game. I think I lean their way. If it's Virginia, I probably lean towards the under in terms of a side or total. If it's that, I don't know who I would have advancing yet between Texas and Virginia. And then yeah, obviously St. Peter's, the Peacocks are back. I agree. I think that they can make it kind of weird and kind of tight. And like we've talked about, as good as Dalton Connect is, he's kind of a lot of Tennessee's team in terms of how they go is how he plays. So I'm probably still going to have Tennessee advancing, but I do agree that maybe I could have a play on St. Peter's spread. I didn't see what it was, but assuming it's 18 and 20, something big like that, I could maybe lean that way. I mean, St. Peter's is kind of a more physical team down low, and Tennessee's kind of isn't as physical. So I think if they could get maybe Connect in foul trouble potentially, that could be a way of them kind of making it weird and kind of keeping it close.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the same thing. St. Peter's is a very physical team, and that's kind of that's to their benefit because of that. They physical meaning obviously fighting for rebounds and like you said, getting key guys like Dalton Connect in foul trouble that could be really big. So you mentioned St. Peter's on that spread. Potentially maybe taking them as well. So I do like that, and then going back to that Texas Virginia matchup potentially for an underplay, I do like that as well. But now we're finally going to get into our final region here. We're going to get into the South region, starting from the top to the bottom here. Look, I'm sorry, Longwood. Thanks for showing up. I'm serious. I mean, Longwood, thanks for showing up. But Houston has the best defense in the country. They're coming off an embarrassing loss. Yes, I know. I saw the whole Drake thing. It doesn't matter. Okay, Drake being there is not going to affect how Houston plays Longwood. Okay. Well, actually, whoa, pause. Whoa. We gotta play that back because of the whole Drake controversy. Anyway, Houston winning. We're going to the next matchup here, Nebraska and A&M. This is honestly my favorite 8-9 matchup, and the reason it is because Nebraska got a really great draw, and a lot of people have been picking A&M as an upset, but I don't know why. I really don't know why. Because they're hot right now. Okay, Texas A&M. They're a great team, but they like to play teams that push the pace, and that's how they succeed because they like to slow them down. Right? We see that against Kentucky. We see that against Alabama. We see that against, all these SEC teams where they had success because they were slowing teams down. Nebraska is already a very slow, methodical team. And so they thrive against teams that are slowing down because they get to match them and play their style of basketball. And I feel like that's why I have Nebraska here. I think Nebraska might be one of my favorite in terms of money line picks or whatever the spread is. I'm going to hammer the crap out of Nebraska because I think the A&M should not be winning this game. And a lot of people are going to say A&M, but Nebraska is the better team on both sides of the ball. Yes, Wade Taylor is a threat, and he's that guy, but Nebraska has their own guy. His name is Casey Tominaga. If you never heard of that guy, you're gonna be introduced to him in this game. I love Nebraska's game. Ari, do you have anything in this Nebraska and Texas A&M game? I believe that's on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't have a huge lead in this game. I feel like my big concern Nebraska is I feel like Tominaga, I feel like he shoots his best, at home. And so obviously it's a neutral court away from home, not on the road, obviously, but neutral court. So that's my concern there. I mean, I feel like if you like Nebraska, I feel like the under, again, it's probably a look. But yeah, I don't have a huge lead in this game. Another one I'm gonna have to kind of look more into as we get closer to Thursday.
Yeah, and obviously, for Friday's games, obviously lines may not be out for by Thursday yet, so we're obviously we'll do our best. But
All,
you
all,
mentioned
all the lines are out for both Thursday and Friday on DraftKings. So
I literally thought that as soon as I said it,
yeah.
so I don't know why I said that. But you mentioned Nebraska being away from home has been a little bit of their downfall. They do struggle when they're not at home, and yes, it's neutral court, but this is kind of like Dayton, as I mentioned earlier. Dayton tends to struggle when they're not at their home court, and even if it's a neutral court, they do tend to struggle a little bit. But I think Nebraska, if Tominaga can get hot, I think Nebraska can win this game, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. But that's like I said, that's just me thinking here. But now we're going to go down to the 5-12, 4-13 matchups. And I know, Ari, you had McNeese Gonzaga as one of your favorite upsets. And here's mine. JMU in Wisconsin. I know. Boo. You did the popular one. Boo. You know what? I literally, when I saw Wisconsin name, I said, give them JMU. I told the committee to give them JMU. I said, you know what? Just give them JMU. James is going to win. I said, give them JMU. You want to know why? Because JMU is going to outshoot Wisconsin. JMU has one of the better offenses, especially from three. If you have never heard of this team, my God, this team, I mean, they already beat Michigan State. And, oh, wait, isn't Michigan State in the same conference as Wisconsin? And JMU beat them on their home floor? Are we not? Are we going to forget that happened at the beginning of the year? Interesting. Very interesting. I think JMU, obviously, just one of the better three-point shooting teams. I think they are a great look in the spot. I know that line has been going in the wrong direction. I saw it open, I think, around 5, and I think it's dropped all the way down to maybe 4.5 or going down, whatnot. But I think JMU is the popular upset pick for a reason because of the fact that their offense, does do well in this spot. Now, obviously, Wisconsin went on a deep run, and obviously that's kind of led more by the fact that Chucky Hepburn and, I think it was Tyler Dahl, they were really hitting their shots. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to be consistent in the spot. And, JMU, I feel like they have one of the better defenses in terms of the perimeter defense. So I do like JMU in this matchup, but I think it's going to be one of those, 5-12 upsets where it's going to be so close and it's going to be coming down to the last few seconds here. So give me JMU. It's going to be a fun game. But I think JMU easily wins this game off of like maybe free throws coming down to the wire or whatnot. But Ari, do you like anything in that matchup? Do you have anything? Because obviously I know everyone's been picking JMU. I know I'm on the trend too, but are you on the JMU trend or are you sticking with the Badgers?
I mean, it's definitely one I've looked into. It's been, a really weird season for Wisconsin with some, big wins and some kind of, confusing losses, you could say. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a tight game at the very least. I can't say I have a strong lean for which way I'm going to go in my bracket yet, but I've definitely looked at JMU, as you have, and definitely have them in consideration for at least a consideration for an upset in the first round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I feel like JMU, the one caveat is that they do turn over the ball a lot, but I feel like if they can just control the board, which they usually do, then it might be a long afternoon for Wisconsin. Then the other one, Duke and Vermont. We look at Duke, and Duke is coming in and struggling right now. Obviously, Duke coming off those back-to-back losses to UNC and NC State in the ACC tournament. But then Vermont, obviously, they've kind of just been coasting in the America East Conference all year. They won their conference outright. They like to control the boards. They're a very slow defensive team, like to slow you down, and like tortoise and the hare matchup once again. I feel like this is one of those matchups here where we talk about, there's the potential for the upset with Vermont over Duke. And, I feel like if this year presents one of those years, it is this year because Duke relies so much on their 6-man rotation, it's looking like that rotation may be getting a little exhausted now, but, maybe they have one more run in them. I don't know. But right now I'm kind of avoiding this matchup, but I do lean Vermont on the spread just because, I feel like Duke with their thin man rotation, I think that it's going to bite them in this spot. But do you have anything right now in terms of this Duke Vermont matchup that you look at, Ari?
No, it's pretty simple for me. I think I'm taking Duke to win bracket wise, but I do think it's gonna. I'm not super confident in them spread wise, so I think it could be close. But I still think Duke prevails in the end.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Now moving down to the final part here, the little section here, Texas Tech and NC State, another bid stealer. NC State, obviously they did the impossible. They won 5 games in 5 days in the ACC tournament, going all the way from Tuesday to Saturday, winning the conference. And now a lot of people, with these bid stealers, what comes into play now is fatigue. Obviously, yeah, winning 5 games in 5 days were easy, and it's definitely it's definitely uh, something to be watched out for per se. In the NCAA tournament, these teams that kind of been bid stealers, if that can continue here, I think it can. I'd be very, very weary against this Texas Tech team. I think NC State, the one thing I say about them is that they have the size advantage. Obviously, with DJ Burns inside and they're big men. I think with them controlling the boards, I think this makes this game really difficult for Texas Tech to really, get things going offensively, which is what they thrive off of. NC State, even though they are not great defensively, their offense is what they kind of lean on. So I do like this over here if you do want an over, but if anything, I kind of like NC State potentially as an upset, but I do lean Texas Tech. I just think, when you look at the talent of Texas Tech with Joe Toussaint, and that program has done in their first rebuilding era, I think that this Texas Tech team, if they can just control the board, if they control the glass enough, I think they can beat this NC State team. And then I have Kentucky beating Oakland, but I have Oakland covering the spread as well. Oakland has some great shooters, and we know Kentucky's Swiss cheese defense all season. It's definitely not in a great spot here. I think Kentucky also has a decent path to the Sweet 16 as well if they can control their defense. But Ari, what do you like in this little region right here between Texas Tech and NC State and the Kentucky and Oakland matchup?
No, yeah, I'm with you here. Texas Tech and Kentucky. Kentucky, I don't have a huge lean on the spread, like you said with Oakland. I don't have a huge lean there, but I think Kentucky just wins, bracket wise. And then, like you said, NC State 5 games in 5 days. It's one thing to back a team with momentum like that, but it's a lot different. Winning say 3 games in 3 days versus 5 games in 5 days is a big difference between just wear and tear and kind of being tired and not. Obviously, you have a few days off until you actually play, obviously, but I'm going with Texas Tech here, I'm pretty sure, and then Kentucky.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I feel like the fatigue for NC State is going to settle in a little bit, but Texas Tech obviously the better offensive team in that matchup. And then finally, going down to the little last region here, obviously another play-in matchup here. So but I do like Florida. Whoever comes out of that matchup against Colorado or Boise State, I think if it is Colorado that they play on Friday, then I do lean Colorado on the spread. I think that's just going to be really high offensive scoring. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I lean Florida on the spread. Actually, I just think Colorado's defense might not be able to just stop, Florida and how their offense has been really clicking right now. And then for Boise State, I think that's going to be a really hard matchup for them, just kind of trying to keep up with Florida's offense. I lean Florida in both chips there. And then Marquette and Western Kentucky, now we finally get Tyler Kolek back. That was the one kind of big thing for this Marquette team is, they were out without Kolek, throughout the Big East tournament, but we did know obviously that he is going to come back for the NCAA tournament. So pretty much mostly resting him, not like Bill Self, but Shaka Smart actually telling us that he is going to come back. So we don't know if there is speculation there. So, the fact that Marquette is getting Kolek back, I think that's so huge for this Marquette team. So I do like Marquette to easily handle this Western Kentucky team, even though WKU likes to score a lot. I think, Marquette will do just enough, especially with their defense, to really limit Western Kentucky in this game. So Ari, finally here in this little last region here, what do you like between the Florida and either Boise State and Colorado game, and then Marquette and Western Kentucky?
Yeah, I mean, I think Marquette roll. I think Marquette should roll pretty easily. Florida, I agree, leading them no matter who they face. I think if Colorado wins, I think that game could be potentially closer. Just with the pace of that game, potentially, like you said, maybe an over in that game. I think what the line is. I think if against Boise, I think Florida rolls a little bit easier. So we'll see who comes out of that game. But I don't know. Florida lost their center in that championship against Auburn. Maybe could hurt their depth. But I may have Colorado potentially if they win, but I kind of lean Florida either way.
I actually completely forgot about Florida losing their center, and I just hit me as soon as you said that, and I got to really put that into as a factor now too, because they lose a bunch of their rebounding size advantage. That's huge, and I know Colorado obviously with Eddie Lampkin, even though he's not the more scoring offensive guy, obviously he's a rebounder, passer, all around player. And then Boise State, obviously they don't have much size, but they definitely know how to rebound. So I see your point there with Florida, but maybe cautiously seeing after. Depending who comes out of the first four matchup on Wednesday, seeing what we can do there. And then obviously you mentioned Marquette easily rolling Western Kentucky. Their team's getting healthier. And I think that's what you always want as you go into the tournament. You want to get healthier. Obviously, unfortunately for Florida, they obviously did get a little weaker with losing their center. But, obviously, I feel like Florida should handle their business, whoever comes out of there. And same for Marquette going to the Sweet 16. I think that's a great look for there. So those are our early looks as we take an early look here at the preliminary bracket. Obviously, we don't know who's the first four, obviously, because those matchups are Tuesday and Wednesday, tomorrow and Wednesday. And obviously, tomorrow and Wednesday, we will be back with some more videos, obviously. We will have some NIT potentially. Obviously, I know. We are those kind of people too. Don't worry. We got all kind of basketball. But we're not betting on the CIT or the CBI. Okay, we are staying away from the CBI or the CIT. So we don't want any questions about the CIT or the CBI. Okay, but obviously, NIT. Obviously, we got some good matchups there. And then as well, obviously the NCAA tournament kicking off in just a few short days here. And obviously, we talked about it last week on our last video, obviously, but we have our full MLB season props, win totals, all that fun stuff. That's our last video. Obviously, we'll be promoting that a lot more, as we get into the beginning of the regular season for most teams. Obviously, for the Dodgers and Padres, they start in 2 days. So that should be a lot of fun. We may have some potential picks, maybe even sprinkle a little bit of a Nerfy play on Wednesday. Who knows, huh? The first Nerfy of the year, Ari. I know you've been waiting for that one as well. But that's going to be all fun and games as we get closer to that. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. I know it's a little different, but we will be back with some bets coming up soon, obviously tomorrow. Just not that much action today. Very light day in terms of, and just the card. Not that much college. Obviously, no college basketball today. Not that much NBA, obviously just spring training. So we're going to come back tomorrow with some best bets for you guys. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this kind of bracket breakdown that we wanted to do for you guys. Just, get some content for the page. We had a long weekend off. Ari just on vacation and me recovering with this ACL surgery. But that's Ari. I'm Korea. We will see you guys tomorrow with some more best bets. Thank you guys for tuning in.